Welcome to Mental Productions Behind the Scenes. I'm Chris O'Regan, and in today's episode we're going to be looking at the TV series Friends. In the early 90s, Friends co-creators David Crane and Martha Kaufman wrote a 7-page treatment for Insomnia Cafe. But it wasn't just the title of the series that changed before it actually debuted. Originally, Ross and Rachel were not going to be the featured relationship of the series. Instead, it was actually going to focus on Joey and Monica. Ooh, Joey would have got fat, wouldn't he? After a few other changes, though, Friends finally premiered in September 1994 on NBC. Friends was not filmed in New York. This did come as quite a shock to me, I have to say. And I was actually in New York after they filmed the final episode, and I was gutted. I was gutted that I wasn't there just a few days earlier to be able to attend that. So I have to say, realising it wasn't filmed in New York after all did come as a little bit of a relief. Yeah, all those years later, I was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. I didn't really miss out after all. Turns out Friends was actually filmed at the Warner Brothers Ranch in California, which is where Joey went to after the series ended for his spin-off, Joey. Here's a weird one. As the series was coming to an end, Monica and Chandler were moving out of the city. Did they move into the McAllister house from Home Alone? Well, let's look at this in a little bit more depth. It may sound a little bit mad considering the McAllisters were in Chicago and Monica and Chandler lived in New York, but let's take a look at the evidence. Let's have some visuals on the screen. In this photo taken from Friends, you can see the front of the house opposite, and it has a Christmas wreath on the door. Now let's take a look at the house across the street from the McAllisters. Same porch, same wreath. Do we need some more evidence? Well, let's see what else we've got. Check out this shot from Friends. Out the living room window, you can see a blue garage. Now, let's take a look at the Murphy house across the street from the McAllisters. It has the same garage. Gunther's hair, that was brighter than the sun, was actually an accident. James Michael Tyler, who was actually working as a barista at the time he was cast, allowed a friend to practice bleaching hair on him. He said, I had a friend who wanted to be a hairdresser and wanted to practice bleaching someone's hair. So I offered what hair I had left at the time. It came out white, and that was the night before I was called in for the first day of shooting for the first season. Tyler was only supposed to be an extra, and it didn't seem a big deal until his part became a recurring one, at which point Tyler then had to dye his hair every week for 10 years. In 1997, the cast were all getting paid different salaries. In a show of solidarity, they all refused to re-sign unless they all got paid the same, and eventually they equally got $100,000 per episode. By the final season, they were each earning $1 million per episode. $1 million per episode. Friends was no stranger to having big name appearances. Bruce Willis was one of those people, and he actually donated his fee for appearing on the show to charity after losing a bet to Matthew Perry. While working together on The Whole 9 Yards, Matthew Perry bet Willis that the film would be a #1 on the box office on its opening weekend. Perry won that bet and the money went to charity. Following the incident of 9/11, many movies and TV shows had to make changes and reshoots, and Friends was no different. In the episode, the one where Rachel tells Ross, it was originally due to air 2 weeks after 9/11. There was a scene where Chandler jokes about bombs at airport security, so this was cut from the show and had to be reshot. Sadly, this also cost Monica and Chandler their first class seats. When the show finally aired, the couple in front of the bins announced that they were on their honeymoon and were bumped up to first class. But in the original version, it was actually Monica and Chandler that got the first class seats. Personally, I think the version that aired was much funnier, so I think we can consider that a win for Friends. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Behind the Scenes. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and give me your comments in the feedback. That's backwards, isn't it? Shall we say this again? I might just keep this in unedited. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Behind the Scenes. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and make sure you leave your feedback in the comments. And make sure you join us next time where we'll be taking a look at the classic musical movie Grease.